Allow me now to introduce our second session of the day. We have a wonderful discussion organized for you. As you can see, the stage is set now to bring us up to speed and to deliver to the hands of the moderator. May I please introduce on stage PK Gulati, founder of Smart Start Food Fund here in the UAE. That's PK Gulati, founder of Smart Start Fund here in the UAE. I'm going to hand over to his very capable hands and to introduce the panelists that will be joining PK. We have Neeraj Gupta, CEO, PolicyBazaar, Middle East, UAE. Vishal Gandal, who is CEO of Gulati. Ashish, Tulsian, founder and CEO of Posist, Global Business, Middle East Gateway. They're going to be gracing us with their presence to be speaking about global footprints and scaling beyond Indian borders. A very fascinating discussion, and in keeping with that innovation and also international angle that we bring for you. So, without further ado, do please give them a very warm welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hand over to your capable hands.
Good morning, good afternoon. It's a Sunday. Shh. Hello, 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 hello. Good. Let me welcome my panel here. Vishal Gondal, Mr. Goki, please. Ashish Tulsian. And I will blame the delay of the fourth person to traffic outside. So he's walking in, and we'll join as soon as he starts speaking. Thank you very much for coming here. You know, this session is supposed to be a session where we tell startups, especially the startups which are actually trying to build their platforms now, how to build beyond their place of growth or place of birth. So these are all startups, companies which have actually grown massively from a small seed to what is today a very large footprint globally. So Ashish, let me start with you. You built a platform which was a small platform supporting a few restaurants to something which supports 20,000 restaurants globally. You want to share your story? How did you start? And the whole pathway as we go through of how you reached where you are.
Hello. Yep. Thank you, PK. Thanks for the opportunity. We started back in 2012 in India, and I used to have a restaurant. So this product, this technology was first built for my own cause, my own pain, and then the home ground was India. So we kept on building for India, for local restaurants, and for us the germination, the concept of why we should go outside of our geography kind of the principle remains same from the day one, which is we were in New Delhi, and restaurant is a very local business. You deal with a lot of people, lot of restaurateurs of Delhi, right? When they say that, hey, your product is good or bad, does it work, does it not work, whether I'm going to buy, not buy, that was not the whole truth. That's what we felt. We always felt that, hey, you know what? We maybe don't know what is happening outside of Delhi. We don't know what's happening in Mumbai, what's happening in Bangalore, what's happening in other parts of India. So very early on, we basically started putting salespeople on ground in different cities just to get that A/B testing done, just to understand that, okay, is this true across India? Is this true from all 4 or 5 sites? And it was an interesting result. Every city had its own truth. Every part of India had its own truth. And we realized that though we were a company in New Delhi, in north of India, everybody believed that we'll be bigger in New Delhi. Our largest market became south of India because south of India had much larger adoption of technology in general. And that was a reaction that kind of went into the veins of the company, where no truth became the absolute truth. We apart from entrepreneurial optimism, we always felt that, maybe somebody somewhere else on this planet feels that this is a good product. Maybe product market fit is reverse. We need to figure out a market that finds this product fit. And so for first 4 years, we were focused on India. And that's when, the product started graduating to a point where we could clearly see that we can support multiple languages, we can support multiple workflows. Said, okay, what's outside of India? And when we started thinking of outside of India, again, we wanted to A/B test. So we went to Singapore and Dubai, both at the same time, because we did not want one truth to become a truth. Same results. Dubai responded beautifully well. Singapore, we are still waiting for the response. So, and in our journey, I think over last 11 years, first 5 years were India, and last 5 years have been, 5-6 years have been about, all over the world. I think the same philosophy has taken us everywhere. We are currently in 52 countries for these 20,000 restaurants.
Awesome. So starting from a simple point of sale system on the cloud, you built it into a whole restaurant pipeline, basically a supply chain in terms of delivery and production, and went global. Vishal, I remember the time when you were playing with quantified self after selling your first company, which was the biggest gaming company in India, to Disney. You were playing with all that, and from there, what happened? Where did you come? Tell us your story.
Thanks, PK, again for having me here. I think what has happened is that there was a time where the technology world was centered around Silicon Valley, and companies were born there, and ideas from there used to be exported, and you became the Uber of something, or you became the Airbnb of something. In the last 7, 8, 10 years, the transition from looking east has become very, very important. And that's where new technology disruptions are coming in. For example, when we started Goki, the idea was that wearables and data is going to be commoditized. What you need is healthcare services to be delivered on top. And people thought we were crazy. And I'm talking of 2014 when we launched the first version of Goki. And today, if you look at every platform, they're all talking about services on top of data. And this is what happened in the world of IoT. And now when I talk about the world of connected health or the Internet of Health, that is where the future is going. And COVID has accelerated this entire adoption in the world. So as far as Goki is concerned, PK, we started in India, but we were always clear that this is going to be a global play. India is like our sandbox, where India is the sandbox where we are building, where we are testing, where we are rapidly deploying, and we are getting scale. But immediately once we are able to get to some kind of critical mass, the idea is to go global. And we of course started with markets like UAE, UK. We have done a joint venture with NHS where we are launching our products there. But what I'm now seeing is that there was a time that even markets like UAE or UK always looked at the West. They always looked at companies from India or the East as software service providers. But now, people are looking at our products and services as real IP and technology. And I'm not surprised with the success which even Ashish is seeing, because previously they used to think that, if we need a real product, we are going to get it from somewhere in the West, but our services and outsourcing was done in the East. But products from China, Japan, Korea, India are now seeing mainstream adoption. And we've been lucky to kind of ride that wave. And finally, what has happened is, and in Goki's business, I'll just give you 30 more seconds. So our business is preventative healthcare, where we are saying instead of spending billions on sickness, if you spend a fraction of that in making sure people are incentivized to be healthy, that changes the healthcare model. And pre-COVID, this was, it's a good to have thing, we will talk to you. But post-COVID, if every government, every insurance company, every employer is saying that I don't want to see a repeat of what happened with COVID. So clearly it is a great time to be looking at international expansion, and especially this region which is hungry. I mean, that is the big difference what I am seeing here versus in other places.
So again, for both of you, a similar question. Like, you decided, for whatever reason, UAE to be the place where you actually expose yourself, both of you. How has that experience been? And I believe since this was a gateway, obviously you found success. This is what you talked to me about things like what you're doing in Makkah, for example. You're talking about stuff that you're doing which people don't see. When you go to a restaurant, you place an order, and then you get your food. You don't see what all happens in between. So I believe your stack is far bigger than what is the point of sale, correct? So tell us about that and how did that happen? How did customers help you build that?
Yeah, hello, yeah. I think for us, the product philosophy has been, centered around the customer problem. So, when we started as a point of sale system for restaurants, our idea was that there were point of sale systems before, but they were not really verticalized. They were not specifically done for the restaurants, and restaurants were not retail. They were not gym, spa, salon. They were not supermarket. They had their own needs, which were very, very specific. As we, started going deeper, we realized that the problems of our customers are yet to be solved. So the next thing for us was doing stock and inventory control for them, because for restaurants, if you will see in last few years, with aggregators, your delivery providers, their margins have thinned to the extent that bottom line efficiency became like a big trouble for them. Then it went on to an integration play where, if you think about it, entire mobile technology in the world is 10, 12 years old. A company that will say, oh, we are the champions in mobile apps, how old they can be? They can be at max 12 years old. So world is in its infancy. It's Android and iPhone basically just leveled the world. So for us, that was another opportunity where, integrations was the new thing for the world, where especially in the restaurant world, restaurants were very happy not connected. They were very happy geographically, small space, 3 miles radius, all your problems, all your happiness will come from. So our stack, kept on growing to the extent that today we have 18 products. We have just rebranded our company. It's not called Posist anymore. It's called RestroWorks. It's a promise to the larger restaurant ecosystem. So, for us, the other part of the question, UAE, UAE became the cradle, for us to look at entire EMEA market. I will not only say GCC, because I look at international expansion as there are certain markets which are representative markets. I call them showrooms. You sell your stuff somewhere else, but you need to be present in the showroom. You need to sell in the showroom. You need to do extremely well at the showroom, because it lends you a lot of credibility, a lot of respect, massive proof of concept in all the geographies that respect that central, location. Dubai, tops that level. If we were present in Dubai, even if we were present in like 10 brands, which in total were, let's say, 20 restaurants in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Oman, in Egypt, everybody gave us seat on table. They gave us an ear. They were ready to listen to us, which was not true vice versa. If we were in Egypt, with due respect to Egypt, we would have made it within Egypt. In Saudi Arabia, somebody would have still asked us, hey, so what do you have in Saudi Arabia? But when we said, hey, we have these many customers of these brands in Dubai, and they said, sure, come, we would want to see what is it that you got. Singapore is the same geography for Southeast Asia. Mexico City is the same for Latin America, and so on. So we have our offices placed, across Mexico, New York, San Francisco, Bangkok, Singapore, Dubai, and now Saudi Arabia.
So you're a pretty young company to have this kind of a play, and what I understand is you didn't raise much money. So how did you do that? You're actually not the typical startup where everybody is going to raise money. Everybody's looking for a VC, and I'm not able to build it if the VC didn't put money. You did the opposite, correct?
We have always been bootstrapped, I think. But at times, it's also true that nobody gave us money. So, bootstrapping was our compulsion. But I think the real fact is that we did not even pitch to VCs. I at times felt that I was lazy. But the fact is that customer money.
You're rich and lazy now.
I mean, maybe that's relative, but I think for us, customer dollars came with absolutely right obligation. For me, the business logic is that customer has a problem, you built a product or a service to serve them, they paid you money. Now the only obligation you have in life is to return the solution, to give the solution to the problem. When you have an investor, you also have another obligation, you need to return their dollars, which is not a bad idea if you know how to do that. But it can come at a cost at times of your customer centricity. So I think we were too customer centric, we are still too customer centric to look at anywhere else. Our reception, our office reception has this board which says, we are here to serve our customers and not serve the interest of our investors first.
You don't have any investors.
So I just have a contrary view here, right? So if you remember Christopher Columbus, he raised a ton of money giving the promise that he's going to find India. And all his investors invested in him. Of course, he was a complete failure and disaster. But what that disaster led to was the discovery of America. So the question here is that yes, while there is a model of doing what you are doing, but when people like us, so what he just talked about is solving known problems, go to a customer, finding a pain point and solving that problem. I come from a business where we are solving unknown problems and unknown solutions. If you ask our customer that do you need this, they will say, no, I'll pop a pill if I have diabetes, or I will do something if I have cholesterol, because they are not even seeking for what we are asking for. So when you are looking at problems like this, which is undefined and unclassified, the way you look at capital is very, very differently. The way you look at capital is looking for smart capital. Of course, there's a lot of dumb capital. Now, talking specifically of UAE, I call UAE, a lot of people ask me that why do I keep coming here? Why are we setting up presence here? It's such a small market. And I call UAE if there was a silk route, a digital silk route, UAE is the center of that silk route. So while in itself, it's not a big market, but this is where you meet everybody. In fact, I jokingly say I meet more of my colleagues from India here in Dubai than I ended up meeting them in either Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai for that matter. So I think what Dubai has offered is it has created this digital silk route where all of us are meeting, discussing, solving problems, and this hub is a great for innovating and then taking it across this digital silk route equivalent, which becomes the interesting part of it. The other reason why I really like UAE is because it has pockets of customers which behave very differently. You have pockets of customers which behave like an American set of customers. You have pockets of customers which possibly behave like any Indian set of customers. And then you have pockets of customers which could be Philippines. So it is like in one market you are able to test out products for 5 different geographies, which you could normally not do. And you can really target it. I know there are products which could be created for the Arabic market here first and then taken out. So it gives you this very unique advantage of having the cultural diversity all in one place. And finally, of course, I love the food here, and PK takes us to some very nice restaurants all the time.
Dubai does have an awesome culinary. Neeraj, welcome. We blame it on traffic.
My apology.
So Neeraj, we've been talking about like brands which have grown in one country, going beyond that and using UAE as a place for global domination. And you, as PolicyBazaar, is one of those brands, which is a hardcore PolicyBazaar, Indian public company now, and coming here to the UAE and facing success. So tell us the story of PolicyBazaar here.
So, okay, I'll jump to the how do we came about to UAE, right? It was about 2017. I've been with the company since 2011. I was handling the motor business. It was 5 years into it. And we are thinking what to do next. Like, you need excitement also, but at the same time, we were exploring. And what we thought is, as PolicyBazaar model in India, there are very few models outside India like that. And specifically, if you look at a model similar to us outside India, they're very focused on one category of insurance, which is motor insurance.
Yes.
Whereas our core has been protection, which is term life health insurance. And we're very proud to say that if we did not exist, probably term life would not have come into existence, at least in the Indian mindset, other than the LIC piece, right? But having said that, so 2007 we started exploring. Obviously, the first market, when you think from an India perspective, was probably Southeast Asia, because there, at least the population numbers are there, right? So Middle East was also not on the horizon for us, to be honest. We visited Southeast Asia, I traveled across, met a lot of players there, and it was very, very behind India from a digital perspective. And when you, वो होती है ना, हिंदी में कहते हैं घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. When you were working in India, you always thought probably these markets are far ahead. But then we realized that at least on a fintech space, India is far, far ahead. And then somebody told us, why don't you look at Middle East also? And we were like, okay, let's travel. So the moment I landed in UAE, I was like, okay, I can speak my language. The people look a lot familiar. And whomsoever I met and spoke to, they knew about our brand. So then we went to the drawing board and we realized a lot of consumers from this region were already transacting with our platform. So as a result, for us, it became sort of an obvious choice then why to look somewhere else. This could become our beta stage where I don't really need to go out there, start branding myself, because the consumer were already aware, the partners were aware, so they were ready to give a seat on the table that, okay, we want to work with you. And that is how our journey to UAE began, to be honest. It was the consumers who drove us.
And now, so you've been here for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I believe you are one of the major brands in the space. I don't know the numbers, so I don't know. I'm sure you're in the top few, if not the top brand. And you've created a massive brand here in this part of the. What are the kind of services that you specialize in here in this part of the world?
So we are essentially a financial marketplace, a consumer. So our objective is to bring transparency to the financial space. That's if you look at our ethos or where we come from is. Typically, historically, how an insurance product was sold, an agent would come to you. Typically, an agent would be your uncle, aunt, neighbor, whom you would trust blindly. You will hand over a check, sign documents, and that's about it. Neither the agent, neither the consumer would really know what he or she is buying. So our objective was to obviously build that transparency, give more information to the consumer so that the consumer can decide. Currently, how it happens is the agent pushes a product to you. But what we wanted to do is build a platform where everything is available transparently, give the information to the consumer and consumer decide. So we do obviously retail product from insurance. You want travel, health, motor, term insurance. In fact, in the UAE, we are probably the only one where you can buy a term life insurance in less than a minute with a policy activated and everything, right? And the same side, we also help consumer choose the right credit products. Be it a credit card, be it a personal loan. In India, for example, we have our sister company, PolicyBazaar, but here we run it under the same brand.
So when you start, when you started here, and this is a question to all of you, now Middle East, of course, starting from Dubai, has become a major market for you. Now, when you look at from that, is this an experiment which was gives you delight that you came here? And that you can use this book to go in other parts of the world? Or have you used this book to go to the other parts of the world?
See, we keep on debating this internally. I believe if we did, for example, I'll just take a hypothetical situation, what we genuinely believe in. If I want to start, suppose, something in the insurance space in India, I don't think so a lot of people are going to give us weightage and all. But if I'm able to succeed here in that model and take that to any part of the world, be it India itself where the volumes are there, people are going to take notice. So, and the other reason is how this country is built on, right? As my colleague mentioned, obviously you can experiment with different demographics here, but at the same time you can really, so for any startup, I believe you want to test your hypothesis very fast, and if you want to fail fast. I believe this country provides that. If any hypothesis or any experiment you want to run, you can either get success very fast or you will fail and you know how do I pivot from it, right? And I believe that is what we are also trying to do here. This will become probably a stepping stone for us to look at the region at much larger. Having said that, financial services obviously come with their own sets of challenges, being a very, very regulated business. And unfortunately, every country, every region has its own regulations which do not at times speak to each other. But having said that, yeah, Dubai becomes a stepping stone.
There you have to reinvent yourself, whichever geography you go to, correct? Vishal, you know, you have been one of the most experimenting people that I know. Like, I've known you for like probably 15, 20 years now. And you've been the most experimenting guy. When you started experimenting with quantified self, I remember you used to have 3 bands, wearing 3 different types of band, carrying a bottle, measuring every milliliter of water I'm drinking, all that stuff. And to the other end of being somebody who comes from the gaming industry and then trying to gamify everything that you're doing, metaverse. You were one of the first people to start working on the metaverse. And now you're talking things like health tokens and stuff like that. All this thing to put it there, and when you're the pioneer in all these new technologies, it's a very difficult job to sell it to people. How do you do that?
So I think, you know, the good thing is when you are on the cutting edge of technology, you become the expert of the field, which is only 6 months old. So as far as...
No, the problem is other people don't understand it's a field, correct?
No, and I think that's what it is, right? I think you need to solve unknown problems. So one of my passions is to not, I mean, while of course we solve known problems, but like just to give you an example of the healthcare metaverse, there is a big challenge of people being in virtual worlds that they are becoming lazy and unhealthy and they're just sitting in couches, and we've seen that. Our idea is to connect your digital avatar to your real health data, so that if you are in Fortnite or Roadblocks or any virtual metaverse, your health data actually is populated with your avatar. So you have to be exercising, being fit for your avatar to do it. And then imagine our insurance company will say, because I have seen your avatar's data, I'm going to protect you both in the real world and the physical world, which is a virtual world, by giving you an insurance plan which gives you protection against cyber theft of your character. And believe me, if you talk to all the young people who play games today, their biggest challenge is that their accounts should not get hacked. Their biggest problem is that their characters on FIFA and other games need to be secure. So they actually need an insurance plan equivalent. So I come from the world of gaming, and gaming and porn are supposed to be the 2 industries. Of course, let's forget porn for a second, but gaming is the industry which is supposed to be at the forefront of everything what is happening. And if you look at the revolution of virtual currencies, you know, Second Life started it like 10 years back. Roadblocks, FIFA. But now these virtual currencies are able to come on the blockchain. And again, this is a great place. I mean, you know, the first virtual regulator, you know, virtual assets regulator is sitting in Dubai.
Vara, yes.
Right, in Vara. So we are all experimenting with virtual assets, and here is the first place where there is actually a regulator, while the rest of the world does not even know what we are doing. So I think the idea of being on the cutting edge excites me personally, and then jurisdictions like UAE, and for that matter even Singapore is now trying hard, and to some extent Hong Kong, to basically make this area as the sandbox to do it. So for me, whether it's a metaverse which we want to implement, and I know UAE has its own plan for the metaverse, but then UAE also has a plan to make its citizen healthier. Yes. So we are able to combine both, which becomes the game changer.
Now, Ashish, coming back to it, and something on the lines of that, you know, your product has matured a lot. Your spaces, you know, I think you should tell people about the Makkah experiment that you did, which tells you what kind of scales you're talking about, and the kind of restaurant chains and stuff that you're working with, which again is testing the edges of what people thought was possible. I remember initially people were not comfortable taking something which was on the cloud, correct? From there, coming to a point where you can actually have an infinite number of, you know, POSes working, must have been a journey, correct?
I think good news is that entrepreneurial optimism does not know, if you're ahead of the market or if you're too early, right? I think when I look back, I'm like, oh damn, like if in 2012 or even in 2015 I knew how ahead of time we would have quit 100%, right? So I think that optimism continued. So we basically were the first ones to imagine a point of sale system completely on cloud, completely on browser. Our product today does not require any installation at a restaurant, even if they're using a touchscreen computer, laptop, tablets, mobile phones, anything. And it works on the browser, but it works seamlessly offline. That means internet speed does not, disrupt that. And it is important to know that because, one of the brands, we work with now is called Albake. And I'm sure people in Dubai are well aware of that. Absolutely crazy volumes.
I'm sure they've queued for it, so.
100%, right? Whenever I ask people, do you know Albake? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I was in the queue in Dubai Mall and I just couldn't
By
get
the way,
in.
do you have a back door where we can jump the queue? Just checking.
I mean,
you don't have to answer that.
I can tell you, but that's backstage. So, I mean, when you work with, brands which were, their entire problem was volumes. Their entire problem was that no matter how beastly that hardware system is, it hangs or it gets disrupted on a weekend, on a festival day. We got a chance, once we got a believer, and in our journey, literally it has been like that. There was pushing the envelope to the extent that we are continuously trying to make people understand our technology. I remember once this gentleman asked me, he said, so basically you are telling us that we have a Blade servers from Sun, and we have these 40 POS terminals across our restaurant bar, and they hang on a weekend, and you're saying you're going to remove the server, all these 40 terminals are going to run a browser-based application, internet can also get switched off, and things will work absolutely fine. And I had to actually explain to him, see, the way you are telling, with the way you are explaining, even it sounds like magic to me, but it's not, because how much processing power do you require? One pizza, one Coke, print bill. Probably the technology that you're using is over-abusing the hardware that you're using. Cloud does not require that. We don't require that. From that day to recently, couple months back, we got to experience the largest QSR operation in the world in Mecca during Hajj for 4 days. We experienced something that I think in our imagination, it was like a mic drop moment for our engineering team because we experienced a single restaurant pop-up by Albake doing some 6,000 to 10,000 bills per hour at the peak. And they were processing these bills. And this was not only about the technology. Imagine this is one bill. There is a queue. And then, somebody's also preparing that meal. And somebody's also packing that meal and then, giving that out. And this operation was running 24 hours over, 4 days. This was the largest QSR operation that we have seen. That, we were talking about the evolution of the product. Our product was deployed right from the point of sale system, that is the order taking system, to their kitchen display systems. We had a prediction system which was continuously predicting how much chicken that you have to prepare, and then to their back-end inventory control and their warehousing and their supply chain, and they were integrated with Talabat. Because of us, first time Talabat was able to experiment online ordering during Hajj, which was never possible before. While all of this happened, the avenue that it opened up for us, we are bidding for F1 Montreal 2024. We have placed the bid for Olympics LA 2025. And, we are also, we did FIFA in Qatar. We powered stadiums, for F&B. Because after this point, when we are talking to prospects, question is that, how many bills per hour do you require? And they're like, oh, it's very heavy. We do 30,000 a day. We're like, we don't worry about it. So I think from trying to convince people that on-prem, cloud is better than on-prem, to completely taking massive volumes on the cloud, doing the full stack, I feel that, the journey has been quite long, but I'm super excited about it today because pre-COVID, we were still a want. Post-COVID, we have become a need. Now when I see in last 3 years, the way our customers, or rather our prospects, have graduated when they send us requirements, they are talking our language. They are saying, we need a cloud-based enterprise-grade product. Do you have APIs? Where do you host? And we are like, wow, this is amazing. I wish we were born in this era rather than 10 years back.
Coming to you, You know, PolicyBazaar is somebody's in everybody's face. What is it that you learned from this part of the world? Like you came with a product which was running, which was massive, you're public. Now coming from there, you come to this other part of the world. What were the learnings that you learned here? Some learnings, some changes, some thoughts.
So a couple of things. What was very unique to this market, one was here the consumers are price conscious, but at the same time they're also ready to pay for a premium service. If the product that you're giving to them, it can stand out, it can make the consumer feel very VIP, then there are enough consumers in this market to pay for. Whereas we always thought a cost-conscious consumer is going to value the cost irrespective of delays in service, right? Like you have to evaluate at times, right? So that was a big learning for us that, okay, you have enough market to build out a premium service capability and the consumers would pay for it, right? That was one. Second, what we realized is, to be honest, at least on the financial services piece, the consumers' expectations here were far lower than where we come from, like from an India perspective, right? In India, the consumer expects everything. If you're offering something digital, they expect you to bring the heaven to earth, right? Here, unfortunately, because the way the ecosystem was probably 5 years ago, the consumers expected, okay, weekend, nobody's going to help me. I believe that was an advantage for us because we always thought we are a 24/7, 365 days operations because it's insurance at the end. And you might require the service at any point of time, especially from a claims perspective. So I believe these two were the most glaring differences from the India market.
I'll plus one to that. I think one advantage that every Indian company has and should exploit to the fullest is support and services. I mean, support services rather, I would say. Just picking a call on weekends or in off hours is a game changer, irrespective of the product, irrespective of the service, everywhere else in the world.
Vishal, what was one learning that you had from coming out of India? You know, you built a company, which was a pretty large company in gaming, which was built in India, for India, and then acquired by Disney. But when you did this, you know, I remember you went up and down, you learned a lot from around the world. What is the learning that you learned when you brought the product outside India?
So I think one learning I have got is that doing direct to consumer outside of your main geography is not easy. So kudos to you guys on cracking that model. I think direct to consumer has a lot of nuances for each market. And sometimes it becomes important to get the right partner who could help you accelerate the growth. So, for example, in the UK, we tried everything and then we realized that, listen, NHS is where all roads lead to one place. And then getting a relationship with an NHS is what became the game changer. Similarly here, there are many routes to market and there are many companies which have different domains, whether it is from the telecom side, the retail side, the enterprise side, the hospitality side. So you should be able to figure out who could be a right conduit or a go-to-market partner, or it could even be what I call a strategic investor who has that go-to-market with you. So I think if you just try and, while I'm not saying it's impossible, I mean, there have been success stories, but it's always better to find somebody and kind of do that route as far as markets like this is concerned.
And Ashish, what is your learning from this part of the world? What was one distinct change that you thought when you came out that, oh, this is not how it works, or this is how it didn't work there?
From this part of the world, I think one thing that we realized and we are still processing, we kind of made it our weapon as well, is that when anybody lands in this part of the world, there is a lot of reseller ecosystem, there is a lot of local partner ecosystem, and people try to over-index and over-leverage it at times, and they're not able to crack it because maybe the local partner is not able to do well for you. Maybe you were not able to get the product market fit before you got into the partnership. I think for us, the learning was actually quite reverse. This region was so heavily done with channel partners selling literally pen to plane that when we started going to the enterprises direct, some of the enterprises said, hey, you know what? We appreciate the fact that we are dealing with the company directly, with no disrespect to the partner, but this is strategic for us, and we see value in that. And we were like, wow. So we actually started we use the channel partners differently. We actually told our channel partners that you bring us the lead, but we are going to front end it. And we are going to put all the effort that is required. You back channel for us, you do the information gathering for us, you sell your stuff, on top of us. We don't mind that, we don't need commissions. But, for us, the channel partner ecosystem started working absolutely reverse of exactly how traditionally it is. And that's why, market also became confused that you don't have a partner, you're not advertising a lot. How the hell are you guys getting into these accounts?
That's an awesome learning. Now, before we end, I want each one of you to tell us what's coming next. So starting with you, what is coming next, Neeraj? What is the next step? What is the next big thing that's going to happen? What are you planning? What are you doing? Like something which is probably public knowledge and you can't possibly tell me a secret, but yeah.
Not a secret.
Where do you see it's going?
If I talk about financial services, at least the domain we are in, I believe we've been hearing about personalization for a long, but we are yet to see that, to be honest, right? I believe Vishal can also tell. You have a lot of health data, but I don't think a lot of providers or manufacturers are still able to build on that. Because if you look at insurance space, typically, it relies a lot more on historical data rather than taking calls on how the future is going to look like. And I genuinely believe that that is going to change significantly, because if it does not, then you're going to be out of business, period. So I believe a lot more personalization on an individual level in every sphere of financial services, is going to happen.
Vishal?
Yeah, and just adding to this, right? So we already launched a product with multiple insurance companies in India where, based on your health score, we can either reduce your premium or increase your coverage dynamically. And it's been very, very successful. And now for us, since what you are seeking is what I want, we should talk after this panel. So that's exactly what we want to bring. Insurance, like he said, is in the stone age of data. They're using actuarial tables which are completely outdated. The demographics have changed, everything has changed. And just like how credit scoring can tell you whether you get a loan or you don't get a loan, same is going to happen in the sphere of healthcare, in the sphere of insurance, and that's really what we are focused on.
I think for us, super exciting time. I think we have built more new products in last 2 years alone that we have done in last 9 before that. I think the consumer mindset, the way consumer wants to deal with restaurants is continuously changing. Restaurants are merely just responding to it. So we are trying to be continuously ahead of that curve. How to burst queues, how to do, from your basic QR code ordering at the table or pay at the table, how can you increase the efficiency of the kitchen? How can you, instead of a kitchen display system which just flashes the order and asks somebody to prepare, can you predict what is going to be the order ahead of time? It may look magical, but we are actually doing it at quite an efficiency. I think I'm excited about the fact that restaurants are extremely open to experiment for the first time in my last 11 years in this industry. So a lot of new stuff happening.
So there's one thing I need to thank all three of you, and I'm very surprised actually with all three of you build great systems, probably use what I'm talking about internally, but none of you use the word artificial intelligence in the whole 40 minutes we've been speaking. So don't you use AI?
It's an overused commodity or a product right now. Yeah, see, I believe artificial intelligence, I believe my colleagues it is overused to a greater extent. All businesses, I believe, which run on technology, some form of the other is using right now, and we are experimenting continuously. Like, for example, from a restaurant.
That was not a trick question. That was so you don't have to answer that. Neeraj, Vishal.
I think more companies have AI in their domain name nowadays than their real tech. But anyway.
True.
So artificial intelligence has no match for human stupidity.
Okay.
So we focus on that.
So Neeraj, Vishal, Ashish, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.